Hey friends, welcome back to This Homeschooling Naturopath. If you are new here, my name is Hannah and I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 little girls who are 10, 8, and 6, and I'm also a fully qualified naturopath living and working in New Zealand. On this channel, I share content related to homeschooling, homemaking, motherhood, as well as some naturopathic info throughout some of my content here. Today's video, I am bringing you guys my top 10 tips for starting your own book club. So if that sounds like something you're interested in hearing about, keep watching. So if you are a regular around here, you'll probably know that I do not usually wear this much makeup on camera. Today's game day. We're just about to head off pretty shortly here to go watch my husband's game. If you are new here and you don't know, my husband's a professional rugby player, so I like to make myself look a little bit more presentable on game day. But if you're a regular around here, you know this is not what I usually look like. Anyways, today we're talking about book clubs. I've mentioned in quite a few videos that I started a book club up amongst our homeschooling group this past homeschool year, and I've had a lot of requests to do a full video on how to start a book club in and amongst a homeschooling group. So I've come up with my top 10 tips for you guys, and I really hope that this video is really helpful. So I'm gonna just try and get into it. I actually have already recorded this video twice. I filmed 2 of this exact same video last night, but I decided I didn't like it, so here I am again, trying this out for the 3rd time. Maybe the 3rd time's the charm. I have got a list of notes that I have jotted down here so that I don't lose track of my tips. So first and foremost, the first thing that I think is important is to know the rules and regulations in and amongst your own particular homeschooling group. I can only speak for the group that I am involved in. Our group is incredibly, it's not like a free-for-all, but it's very much like parents are really encouraged to participate as much as possible and to create events as much as possible. We do not have like a leader of our group. No one particular woman is in charge of everyone. We don't have to report back to anyone. We don't have to ask anyone's permission to do things or organize things. There are no requirements for anyone in the group. There are no fees, memberships, subscriptions, anything like that. Parents bring their children to what they want to bring their children to, and if they don't want to, then they don't, and that is perfect and beautiful, and everyone is just free to come and go as they please. So when it came to me wanting to create this book club, I was so free to do so, and it's definitely encouraged that parents get involved as much as possible so that there are more events for all of our kids to benefit from. So when I'd been thinking about starting a book club for like 6 months before I actually voiced it, but I did just put out in our Facebook chat, hey, I'm thinking about starting this book club. Would anyone be interested in participating? And there was a lot of great feedback that I got, so that really encouraged me to move forward. But like I said, I didn't have to, ask permission from anyone. So find out what the rules are in and amongst your own homeschooling group. I know that sometimes with like co-ops and different things like that there are rules and stuff like that. So I don't know, but definitely figure out what the rules are for your particular homeschooling group and what you'll have to do in order to create a book club. Okay, tip number 2 is figure out what age range you want this book club to be catering toward. So, is it like 5 to 16 type of thing? Is it going to be more specific than that? For our book club, I chose to kind of cater it to the ages of 7 to 11, just because my kids are 10 and under. So obviously I was thinking about my kids when I was, picking out my age range. Obviously every child of, all the families are totally invited regardless of age, but I do just mention to parents that sometimes the books, because our age range is 7 to 11, sometimes our book choices are a little bit too young for those older, teenage kids, and vice versa. Sometimes some of the content is a little bit more, maybe confronting for like the really littlies. So yeah, pick your age range, decide who and what age you want to be catering to. My third tip is to decide whether or not you want this book club to be like an individual book club or like a read aloud book club. And what I mean is this book club for specific age children of particular families, or is it like a full family read aloud book club? For us, it seemed natural to do like a more read aloud book club, and so that's just what all of our families have done. Those families with older kids do often read the books aloud to their younger siblings, but it is not like a specific, the 10-year-olds of these families read the book and then the 10-year-olds get together and talk about the book amongst themselves. You definitely could do something like that. That is just not what I have done. I definitely wanted it to be a little bit more, family friendly, community friendly, and so that when we get together as a book club, all of the kids have read it, all of the parents have read it, and we're all on the same page as far as, our knowledge of the book goes and stuff like that. So decide for your book club if you want it to be for individual children or as like a whole family read aloud type of thing. Now, once you have figured all of that out, this is the most fun part, but also I would say probably the most time-consuming part is to start doing research. When I decided I wanted to move forward with this book club, you guys, I spent hours and hours looking at book lists, looking at book recommendations, watching book reviews here on YouTube, reading through book reviews on, all the different book review websites you can go on, and really just researching. Some of my favorite book lists that I personally referenced quite a lot was Gather Around Homeschool. If you're not familiar, you can go on their website and under unit resources, you can see all of their units. And when you click into a unit that they have, you can see all of their book recommendations that go along with that unit. And so Gather Round, I love all of their book recommendations. And if you, obviously I was picking like chapter books for our book club, so I would just choose books or look at books that were under the like middle school, high school category in the Gather Round book recommendations. So that is a really good resource to find really good, wholesome, morally just book ideas. My next recommendation is Honey for a Preteen Heart. Again, depending on what age range you're catering to. I chose the preteen one. There are a couple of others. I think there might be like a younger one and an older one. Here goes my dog friend barking at nothing. Okay, I didn't actually buy the physical book. I just got the Audible version, and when you get the Audible version, it comes with a PDF like download. So I just screenshotted some of the books that I liked the look of within that. Pinterest I use quite a lot, just for like ideas. My next one is Read Aloud Revival. They have some amazing book recommendations on their website that are so easy to look through. It's all free. And then finally, Story of the World. In the teacher's guides, they have additional reading for every single chapter of Story of the World. And so I did also get quite a few ideas from there. There are so many book lists out there that you can look through and reference. Yeah, just do your research, start getting some ideas of what books you might like to include. So once you have collected a big list of ideas, some potential books that you might like to include, my next tip, you guys, and this might be one that's a little bit less desirable, is to actually read the books. Now, this is not like 100%, required for your book club, but for me personally, I just wanted to be sure, 100% positive, for my own sanity, for my own peace of mind, that there was nothing in any of my book choices that were going to, that were going to like hurt someone's children, or, I didn't want any surprises in any of my book picks is what I mean. And I kind of learned from last year, there were a couple of books that I personally read to my girls that I had not pre-read in their entirety before introducing them. There was one book in particular, we got about halfway in. It was amazing, it was beautiful, we loved it, all of us, we were really enjoying it. And then there was a huge plot twist, and wow, I did not see it coming. It took me off guard, and had I known that that was in that book, I would have never introduced it to my children. So I learned from my mistake, and because of that, I just, for my own sanity, I had to make sure that I read each of our books in their entirety. And this was a lot, it was a lot easier than it sounds. Like, obviously, you guys, we're all busy homeschooling moms. I understand you don't have hours and hours to sit and read books. For me, I was in a really good position to read them because this was during a time when my husband was actually living in a different city for rugby. And so it was actually really nice. Like, I'd put the girls to bed at night and I would just lie in front of the fire and read a new book every night. And it was great. I actually really enjoyed that. And a lot of the time too, you get a really good idea for the book in the first couple of chapters. There were quite a few books that I started reading that I was like, yeah, no. In the first 2 chapters, I was like, nope, that's not gonna be for us. So yeah, it's a lot easier than it sounds, I feel like. But yeah, is this 100% required to read every single book in their entirety? No, but yeah, for me, so that I didn't have to deal with that anxiety, I just needed to be sure that all of these books were safe, you know, and aligned with everyone's values. Especially like now I've got moms telling me that they trust my judgment when it comes to books. And for me, I feel like that's like a big pressure. Like, oh my gosh, they trust my judgment. Like I better make sure that I know what is in these books that I'm recommending to all of these families. So that is my next tip for you guys. All right, my next tip is to make sure that the books you are choosing align with your group's values. I'm aware that a lot of groups have a lot of religious values, and a lot of different groups are founded upon different things. Make sure that the books you are choosing align with your group's values. For our group, personally, we are not based on any type of religious foundation. However, a lot of us align in our political views, our political worldview, I would say. And so I want to make sure when I'm choosing books for our group that there is nothing that goes against that political worldview. And so if you are maybe in a Christian homeschooling group, make sure that the books you are choosing align with all of those Christian values and whatever else you need to take into consideration. My next tip is to make sure the books you're choosing are easily accessible. And this is a lot easier said than done for, maybe those of you who live rurally, maybe your libraries aren't that good. For us here in New Zealand, we just don't have access to books the way that, maybe the people in the United States do. So it can be tricky. So when I was gathering my book ideas, if I would go search in our library and find that the library did not have that book, then I will completely write it off. Because if the library doesn't have it, then it's probably not going to be very easily accessible. I don't want to be asking my families to fork out money to buy new books. I don't feel like it's fair. Most of us one-income families, obviously as homeschooling families, so everyone is on a tight budget, and I just don't think it's fair to ask families to be buying new books every month. I'm sure that makes sense. So if they were not easily accessible, if the library didn't have them, then I would just write them off completely. There were a couple of books that I really, really liked the look of, but yeah, the library didn't have them. And then the one website that was selling them, they were charging like $50 per book, and there's just no way. So keep in mind that if you want to pick books of that matter, of that type, don't be offended if people don't want to pay the money and no one turns up to the book club. Next up, plan how often you want to meet. So for our book club, we meet once a month. At the end of the month, once everyone has read the book in its entirety, we get together and just discuss the book. If there's a movie that goes along with that book, then we will watch that movie together. And that's it. We don't really do anything else. And that leads me into my next point, which I believe is number 9, is decide how strenuous you want this book club to be. With book clubs, I feel like the sky is the limit. You can make it as in-depth as you want, and you can also make it as not in-depth as you want. For us, we get together at the end of the month and we watch the movie, we talk about it, and we just let the kids run around and play. I'll sometimes set up some arts and crafts. When we did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I made chocolate Play-Doh and had a few different artworks out, you know, coloring pages and stuff like that for the kids. But that's all we do. If you're interested in making the book club a more, you know, like almost like a language arts curriculum, then you could definitely look at incorporating literature guides. But keep in mind, you know, you'll have to be discussing who's gonna pay for all of that. If you're all sharing it amongst your group, make sure that you have, you know, the rights to do so. If you're planning on making this book club like part of your children's language arts program, then definitely, you know, you can look at some different literature guides and what have you. My girls and I did a couple of literature guides last year alongside of some of the books, and I was definitely sharing some of the things we were doing with our book club, you know, sending pictures and different activity ideas and what have you, but by no means was I like pushing anyone to add more to their plate. You know, we're all busy. We all have a lot of curriculum to keep up with. And so for us, our book club was just really an opportunity to connect by reading some great literature to our kids and then getting together and letting the kids play and socialize, and also giving us moms the opportunity to socialize. But if you want to take that and go a lot more in depth, definitely the sky is the limit, but just think about how that will work. Think about what guides you want to be using and making sure that you have the rights to share that amongst the group. And finally, you guys, number 10, have fun. Have fun. Make this book club a fun, beautiful experience. Make it something that when your kids are grown up, they can look back on and be like, oh yeah, I really remember that book, you know, and they have all these positive, warm, fluffy feelings about it, and, you know, make it something that all the kids want to come to. Make it something that all the moms get excited about, that all the moms get excited about reading this book to their children. Make it a very fun, memorable experience for you and your little ones and everyone else involved in the book club. For us, when we get together at the end of the month, it's a celebration, right? Like everyone brings food, we all contribute, we make it like almost like a party, an end of the month book club party. You know, we decorate, we have food that is themed for the movie or for the book, and it's just, we make it a lot of fun, you know, and I think that for me is like the most important thing. And then these are not like my 10 tips, but these are some things that I wanted to add. Make sure that if you know that there are families in your book club who are participating, if you know that they have particular values, take that into account when choosing your books. An example that I want to add here is we have a couple of families in our book club that don't celebrate Christmas. And so when I was picking a book for the month of December, I took that into account. I personally feel like it would be super disrespectful of me to put out like a full-on Christmas book for December, knowing that there are people in our book club who don't celebrate Christmas, right? It would just, I feel like it would be disrespectful, and not only that, but that would cause them to not join for that month, and that's not what I want. So I took that into account, and when I chose a book for that month, I made sure that it was not related to Christmas. And the same thing goes with like, with Halloween. Most people here in New Zealand don't celebrate Halloween. I'm American. I would have loved to have a full-on Halloween book in the month of October, but the fact is that the families in our book club, you know, most of them don't celebrate Halloween. So little things like that, I think it is important to take into account. And I think, you know, when you align with everyone's values as best as you can, obviously you can't please everyone, but when you align as best as you can, that will allow for more families to keep coming back every month, which is what you want. And also, don't be offended if a family decides not to read a book for one particular month. I have had that happen. Don't take it personally, you guys. In fact, I 1000% respect a parent's decision to not read a book if they don't feel like it's suitable for their kids. That is what every parent should be doing. Every parent should be taking their own personal values and morals into account before just trusting someone else's opinion, even if it's someone they know, like me. I 1000% recommend that parents look at the book beforehand and decide for them whether it's a book they want to read, and if not, please, and I like, please do not join if you don't want to, and I will not take it personally. You know, it's not an attack on me. Yeah. So that is another little tip that I have. Don't take it personally if someone says, sorry, this book's not for us. That is okay. And then also, this isn't really a tip, but this is something else I like to do, is I really like to try and match up our books with this season that we're in. Obviously, that's not possible with every single book, but for example, right now it's our summertime, and so we're reading Holes. And while Holes isn't exactly a summer book, it's obviously very hot throughout the book, so I wanted us to be reading it in summertime. Our book for next month is Because of Winn-Dixie, and they do mention in that book that she's on summer break. So I wanted to, I do my best to like align our books with this season that we're in when I'm choosing them. And again, like, it's not always possible, but if a book mentions that it's wintertime and they're in the snow or something, then I'll make sure that we read that in the months of our wintertime. So, I mean, that's not like a requirement, but I feel like that's how it, in my mind, that's how it needs to be. I think that is all I have to share on the topic. I can't think of anything else right at this particular moment. I may have more. I may have more suggestions that I'll add in the future. If I think of anything else, I'll put it down in the comments below. But yeah, those are my top 10 tips. Well, I guess it was kind of 12, but I'm gonna call this my top 10 tips for starting a book club. I really, really hope that this encourages you to start your own. Take the plunge, you know, don't be afraid of people judging you or, you know, thinking that you're a bad book picker. You know, take the plunge, and honestly, like, it has a tremendous payoff. This book club has honestly been the biggest blessing in the past year that we have had in our homeschooling journey. My kids have had so much fun. I have made some amazing connections with some of the moms involved, and it has just been beautiful. I wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm really, really excited to continue forward with the book club this year. It's been a really, really huge blessing. And another thing I wanted to share is that while it's a blessing, you know, for everyone involved, making friends and what have you, it's that connection that I'm creating with my kids, you know, through reading a book, through immersing yourself in this different time, in this different world, in this different, you know, all these different events that are happening in the book. Immersing yourself in that alongside your kids is just so beautiful, and I think that it really, read-alouds in general, like reading a book aloud to your children, it really solidifies that bond, I feel like. I highly, highly recommend starting a book club, and I wish you guys all the best of luck with doing so. If you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will do my best to answer those. But my biggest piece of advice is just take the plunge, get started, pick your books, and start reading, because it'll just be amazing. So yeah, that is what I have to say today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one.